Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Welcome to another installment of Dragon Hoard, a series where I flip through the Dragon magazines that I have in my collection and maybe pick an article or two as we're going to focus on. Today we are taking a look at issue 278. This is the December 2000 edition of Dragon magazine, and might be in for a bit of a treat here because we have an exclusive on the Dungeons & Dragons movie. This issue also focused heavily on dwarves. So this was the beginning of the series of magazines that each focused on a different race from the player's handbook. I believe I have the elves issue and maybe the gnomes issue. I don't have the halflings issue because even when I bought these from my friend, halflings was his favorite race. So he did keep that issue of Dragon. But I'm interested to see sort of what we have here. If it's a long article, we might just sort of gloss over it. But we do have things like speak the Dwarven language, get the gadgets. Gadgets seems more like a gnome thing, but anyway, learn the lore and scream the battle cries. There's also an article, Paint Like a Pro, Games Workshop veteran Mike McVeigh shows you how, and some Greyhawk fiction, among a few other things. So let's just get right into it, shall we? As always, with the beginning of these magazines, we do have some advertisements. The advertisements are heavier in these issues than I remember them being. So I'm wondering if, because this is pre-Paizo, like this was still when Wizards of the Coast were the ones putting these issues out. So I'm wondering if maybe when Paizo took over, that's when the advertisements got a little bit lighter. But we got like a whole bunch at the beginnings of like the last few issues I've taken a look at. Another ad for Arcanum, which is the PC game. Escape to Cybertown, which again, I've never heard of before seeing these issues. We have Reinventing the Dwarf as an editorial. I'm not going to go into the editorial in these videos. It might be something that I'd like to do for a future series, though, where I read over the editorial and sort of give my thoughts on the things that they had to say in it. But for now, this issue is all about dwarves, so the editorial is about the design for dwarves in 3rd edition. Sacrifice? I never heard of this one either. So... oh, it's got a lot of pages to it. So 6 pages dedicated to advertising this one computer game. I've never heard of it, so I guess if you have, let me know if it was any good. Oh, and then we've got our scale mail. So this was our letter section. So, I mean, by this point in time, like email was becoming more popular. But the large way that people were still communicating back then was through like written letters. So it does give the email address here though, and there would be like, I know in the Paizo era ones, if it was through email, they would just say via email. But if it was a letter, they would actually say where the letter came from. So I'm not going to go into again the article, the letters that are sent in here in this, but that could be once again a really interesting concept for a future video series. Just going through and taking a look at what we have for what people were sort of writing into Wizards of the Coast about or writing into Paizo about in regards to the magazines. We got a profile here, so I think that's a profile on... profile for a member of the Wizards of the Coast staff. The Star Wars D20 role-playing game. Actually, is this even for the D20 version? Oh yeah, Wizards of the Coast, okay. So yeah, that was coming out around this time as well. The advertisement for Dragon magazine, Icewind Dale, Heart of Winter. I do have this game from Good Old Games, but I didn't get super far into it. I'd like to get it for the Xbox, actually. Oh, here we have our product previews. So we've got the Hero Builder's Guide. Man, that is not the cover that we ended up with. I want to say that we ended up having the cover with the Regdar, the iconic fighter. It's kind of zoomed in on his face, I think. That's not a good cover. That is not a good cover at all. Diablerie. Never heard of that either. Diablerie brings all the flavor and excitement of the enormously popular Diablo 2 computer game to the newer edition of D&D. Over 1 million magic items? What? 5 character classes and more than 100 spells How the hell do you get 1,000,000 magic items? Okay, so if any of you actually picked up this book, let me know about it because I have never heard of it before, and that seems like a pretty bold claim. I know that the Diablo 2 was doing crossover stuff with Dungeons and Dragons. There was a lot of second edition products regarding Diablo 2. I think some of the Diablo 2 PC games actually came with like D&D modules in them that are related to like the Diablo 2 video game. But I've never heard of Diablerie and over 1,000,000 magic items. I don't know how you would do that. So there you go. Also, previous stuff coming up, we have Sword and Fist, which was the fighter and monk splat book with some new things like prestige classes, feats, equipment, stuff like that. Speaker and Dreams, which I believe was another installment of the module series that started with the Sunless Citadel and Forge of Fury. Legacy of the Drow Collector's Edition. Legacy of the Drow. Oh, I think, yeah, okay, the Forgotten Realms Omnibus. Yeah, that was the prequel series, I think, for the Dritz books. Dragons of a Fallen Sun, a Dragonlance novel. And in February, you had the Monster Compendium Creatures of Faerun, D&D miniatures, both heroes and monsters, and another Dragonlance novel called The Messenger. It's kind of nice that they were actually, pumping out novels at this point in time. They are getting back into it, but it'd be nice to see more here. Countdown to the Forgotten Realms. So the Monsters of Faerun predated the actual campaign setting, which you can tell pretty clearly when you take a look at the cover of the Monsters of Faerun, because it mimics the monster manual and not what the Forgotten Realms covers would look like. So we got a description of like regional feats, some new feats. So you have Discipline, Education, Luck of Heroes, Mercantile Background, Silver Palm, Tree Topper, and Twin Sword. Twin Sword gives you an AC bonus when fighting with 2 weapons, something that, again, Rangers probably should have just had. Then we got the Dwarves of Faerun, so Shield Dwarves, which are the Player's Handbook ones, but then you've got the Gold Dwarf, which gets +2 to Con, -2 to Dex, a +1 attack bonus against aberrations instead of orcs and goblinoids. The Dwargar, which are the Grey Dwarves, +2 to Con, -4 Charisma, Dark Vision 120 feet, +4 to move silently, +1 racial bonus to listen and spot checks, and spell-like abilities. Then you have the Rock Gnomes, which are like the Player's Handbook ones, and the Deep Gnomes, or the Swerve Neblin. Swerve Neblin, -2 to Strength, +2 to Dex, +2 to Wisdom, -4. There's a lot of things with -4 to Charisma. Dark Vision 120 feet, spell-like abilities, Stone Cunning, racial bonuses to saving throws, and high checks and spell resistance. Then there's a thing for high-level advantages. So the rules for playing characters over 20th level won't appear until after the Forgotten Realms campaign setting. So how could the designers present such powerful characters as the Symbol or Elminster of Shadowdale? They'd have to peer into the future, wouldn't they? Well, that's what they did. With the help of the core rules team, the Forgotten Realms designers gleaned just enough information to give the most powerful characters in Faerun their rightful abilities, what they can have, what you can have. Instead of the usual array of advantages characters receive upon gaining a level, those who raised 20th level or above 20th level can pick an epic level ability. Those can range from a +1 ability increase to a +1 higher level spell, giving a character a 10th level spell slot, which you use for metamagic feats. And see, the epic level benefits are still under vigorous development, so that's all we dare to say this month. So I don't remember if the stat bonus was an option you could choose when the actual Forgotten Realms campaign setting book came out. I know you could choose between +1 to your attack bonus and +1 to like all of your saving throws. As well as like getting the 10th level spell. But yeah, I don't, that's something I might have to check out. I don't remember them just saying once you gain a level above 20th, you could just add to your stats, but who knows? Like I said, it was under development, so it very well may have gotten cut. Dork Tower, good old Dork Tower, a Magic the Gathering novel advertisement, some PC portraits, and here we get into a short history of dwarves. So this was a video or an article that I wanted to focus on, but there's a lot of text here. So I think this, again, might be something that I could do a standalone video on, just going over the article in of itself. Because, like, I always want to leave this open. If there are articles from these issues that I gloss over and you want to see me go over them in more thorough detail, then please let me know, and I'll be more than happy to do that. But this one's a pretty long, lengthy article, I think, here. Oh, it's only a couple pages, but we got some more stuff to come as well. So let's just focus on the recommended reading table that they give us here. So, in addition to the sagas and fiction mentioned in this article, which would have been like the Dragonlance and some of the D&D novels, especially like the Icewind Dale, the Dritz books, which have a lot of dwarven involvement in them. You might try mining through the following books for nuggets of dwarven and more general subterranean, supernatural, little people, history, and legendary. So you got an Encyclopedia of Fairies by Catherine Briggs, Gods and Myths of Northern Europe by Ellis Davidson, The Subterranean Worlds by Walter Kafton Minkle. I haven't heard a lot of these people. We've got the fairy mythology, a lot of fairy stuff for the dwarves. For Thomas Keeley? Knightley? Not Keeley. We've got Strange and Secret Peoples, Fairies in Victorian Consciousness by Carol G. Silver. These are not the books I would have been expecting. Mythical and Fabulous Creatures, a Source Book and Research Guide by Malcolm South. And The Complete Fairy Tales of the Brothers Grimm. So, okay, I mean, I guess. Like, to be fair, a lot of dwarven lore for that, like, pertains to D&D would have been in, like, the Lord of the Rings and the actual officially licensed D&D novels. So, but it was interesting to see how many of those titles involved fairies in them. So, weird stuff. So we got the Dwarven Lexicon. So we actually have an adventurer's guide to Pigeon Dwarven. We're not going to go through too much of this, but we'll take a look here. I'm just going to hold this up closer to the camera, so if you want to pause and have a clearer look at what we've got here, you have a Dwarven term, what it means in common, and what part of speech it is. So conjugation, preposition, noun, adjective, proper noun, or I guess, yeah, noun and what they are, like creature, weapon, food. So let's just take a look at a few things here. So we got flows, F-L-O-S, which means scroll, okay. Dogos means beside, okay. Grum equals steel, so the Dwarven term grum is steel. All right, again, I'm not gonna question these. Horm is cleric. Herm is human, so Horm and Herm. So if you're a human cleric, you're a Horm, or Horm? That sounds confusing. Mar is mountain. Nay is white. A lot of these kind of like mimic other like actual words to the point where it might be confusing, because nay is just like, normally you think of it as just a way of saying like no or negative. But here it means white in Dwarven, so weird stuff, but cool. Like, this is the kind of like a level of detail that is always fascinating to me, even though it's something that I know I will likely never use in my campaign. We got a Dwarven battle cry generator. Let's see what we got here. So we got the table of battle cries. Let's pick a couple and see what we have here. So they give you the words to say, which tables to consult. And yeah, all right, so let's, we've got I am the, so that's number one. I am the, and we're looking at table 9. So I am the gauntlet, we'll say, of table 8. So I am the gauntlet of the Dwarf Father. Okay, strange. I'm the fist of the Dwarf Father, might make sense, or I am the Warhammer of the All-Father. I am the Great Axe of Moradin. I am the Fist of the Soul Forger. I mean, there's some cool stuff I guess you could do with that. All right, so let's just take a look at another one here. So number 8 says, from the table 1 of table 9 I come. Okay. So from the fortress... What? Okay, so from the fortress of the table 9? That one doesn't make sense. So, okay, so from the tome of the Urgosh... some of these are weird. All right, let's see here. Number 17 just says the word no and then consult table 4. So it could be, which are flaws. So no cowardice, no evil, no fear, no weakness, no treachery, no dishonor. That one works fine. That one's pretty good. Number 9, face the table 3 of table 8. So face the wrath of my forefathers. Okay. So some of these are pretty good. Some of these are kind of weird, but yeah, kind of neat. Again, what I'll do is I'll just hold this up if you want to create your own Dwarven battle cry. So there's the templates. And then these are the charts. Just pause if you need to. Again, it's a cool thing that I might actually, use that in a campaign just to see. Then we got Forge and Hammer, The Secret Life of Dwarves by Wolfgang Bauer. Now, okay, so let's just see. Oh, okay, this looks like it's going to be a lengthy article. That's a really lengthy article. Okay, so definitely not going to focus on this one for the video either. But this looks like something that I would absolutely love to read. So I'm looking through this magazine, honestly, for the first time for this video. And I'm going to keep this one separate. I'm going to keep it like more handy to where I can just pick it up and flip through it. Because this is the kind of stuff that I love. So this is essentially just cultural stuff about the dwarves. It's just flavor text that you might never use in your campaign or for your player character at all. But it's still just a fascinating thing to read. So you have, for example, dwarves of, at birth and childhood. So I'll read this one little section here, just because it's only one part of the article. But it says, the birth of a dwarf is rather mysterious, the ceremonies and taboos surrounding it closely guarded secrets. All that is known for sure is that the clan matriarch gives the child its first name a day after it's born. Okay. The rite of first naming is celebrated by the women of the clan. The child is not allowed out of the clan's holdings until the rite is celebrated. Taking a child out of the tunnels might expose it to the corrupting influences of the sun and sky rather than the safety of the earth and stone. Outsiders are not invited to the celebrations held among the parents' clan. Dwarven pregnancies last about 10 months. During this time, mothers never leave the clan holding. Dwarven women can have children once every 10 years, okay, from roughly age 50 until the age of 150. I think dwarves typically live around like 200 to 300 years in D&D. So a dwarf is not weaned before the age of 8 or 9, and twins are rare. So this is actually kind of an interesting thing here, because in the Forgotten Realms, I forget the name of the year, but they have something called like Thunder Twins, which was a period of time in which dwarves were giving birth to an abnormally large number of twins. And in the Forgotten Realms, I think it was in the Races of Faerun book, there was actually like feats that you could take, or there was like things you could do to be one of these like dwarven twins. It was actually a really, really kind of cool thing. So it's interesting to see here that it actually does mention that, twins are very rare, which makes them having a ton of twins all be born around the same time all that much more mysterious in the Forgotten Realms. So really cool stuff there. I like that. Once a child is born, named, and celebrated, it is largely ignored. In fact, dwarven children are not considered fit company for others until the boys grow beards and the girls reach menarche. Around age 28. That's a long time for them to just be completely ignored. Dwarves rarely see children of other clans, only their own. The children can remain this isolated because the children's quarters are part of the clan holdings, separate from the apprentices and warriors' holdings. Okay. During childhood, dwarves play, yell, and associate with the opposite sex far more freely than any other time of their lives. Young dwarves learn to speak and play at both mining and parenthood? Really? They engage in mock combat and learn to shape and read dwarven runes. Okay, that makes sense. They play only with other children of their own clan, speaking the clan dialect and learning its customs. This early emphasis on blood relatives creates a lifelong tendency among dwarves to favor clan interests over any others. Their mothers are their teachers until the age of about 24, when childhood ends and adolescence begin. From this time on, fathers are responsible for their children. The fathers must find good matches for them, first with the mentor, then with the mate. So that's really neat stuff. I definitely want to read more of this article. But yeah, that's some really interesting stuff. Now again, the long-lived races, even though they do live significantly longer than a human would, they still typically physically mature at a fairly similar rate. I know the joke of elves living for hundreds of years mean that they spend 50 years in diapers, but that's not really the case. They typically are what you would consider to be fully grown by, ages, 15 to 20. But they're not society-wise considered to be adults until much later. At least that's the way that elves are described in some of the other books, and I think they mention the same thing of dwarves as well, which is kind of why they spend 28 years, I guess, just sort of the idea of them finding a mate is still mentioned at the end of their childhood, and not just in the adolescence or the adulthood section. So really cool stuff. Until a dwarf marries, he or she is never considered entirely adult. Okay, so yeah, some some cool stuff in here. I really like this. And a section on courtship and marriage, which you're not going to read. We do have fostering fees, so this is the apprenticeship cost, I guess, for taking up apprenticeships with these different professions. So a stonecutter or miner costs between 300 and 400 gold over the course of 11 to 14 years. Some long apprenticeship there. A priest or sorcerer is an upper class dwarven trade, I guess you could say. 7,000 to 14,000 gold overall. It takes 20 to 25 years. Interesting stuff. I love it. I love this kind of stuff. So this is an article, and I do have the next issue, which I believe is on elves. So I might do separate videos just for these articles because these are friggin' awesome. I love it. Dwarven feasts and toasting, death and burial, and dwarven adventurers, dwarven titles, aristocratic or religious titles. So you have king or queen, earl, clan chieftain, clan elder, house guard, skald, or the thane. I am the thane, therefore I can get away with things, at least if Skyrim is to be believed. Religious, you have priest king or priestess queen, high priest, which is normal, priest priestess, forge priest or forge priestess, which is pretty cool, forge sister or brother, master smith, chanter, and smith. So cool stuff. All right, here we go. The D&D movie article. I'm probably not going to read the whole thing here because this also looks like it might be a long one. But let's focus on, because again, I might do a separate, I know I keep coming up with ideas for other video series, but what I might do is a separate series where I go through the articles that I have pertaining to the D&D movie and just do them all in one video and share my thoughts on them. Because I do want to do a video talking about the D&D movie, my thoughts on it, and things that not that I'm a director by any stretch of the imagination, but things that they could have done to have definitely improved the D&D movie. And if you aren't aware of the 2001 D&D, film, there's stuff you can look up on YouTube all about it. I used to be able to watch the movie on YouTube, but I think those have all been kind of stricken down, so I might actually have to spend money to buy it on the Xbox Marketplace. But It might actually be kind of a fun thing too for Twitch once we buy a home and I can have a better setup where I can actually be on camera. It might be kind of fun to do like a watch along kind of thing where you sync it up to when I start the video and I can just sort of share my thoughts as stuff goes on. But I am glad that one of the pictures in here is what it is, because in the first video in the series, there was a D&D movie preview article, which did some, we'll say, sugarcoating maybe, or some, kind of trying to put a spin on the movie. So one of the things that they mentioned were, like, there's a whole plethora of iconic D&D monsters that are going to be in the Dungeons & Dragons movies, including Beholders, which there were, but they did nothing other than be guard dogs that, for some reason, tended to point all of their eyes in the same direction. Then you also had, like I said, you had skeletons, or a skeleton, and there was, but you never fought it. Just, it was holding the magical MacGuffin that Ridley was looking for. When Ridley grabs it, the skeleton holds on, gives this, like, warning about how, corruptive the magic item is, and then the skeleton just kind of just deanimates. But it was in the movie, so there's that. And then it said that there was a unique take on the Mind Flare. And in that, reading that article, it finally connected the dots for me for something that I was always confused by on the number of times I've watched the D&D movie. And that was, what the hell is this thing? So in the movie, there's the scene where they go to, I don't think they ever name the city, but it's where they have, like, Silas's Thieves Guild. And I kind of hate the fact that I remember the character's name, the guild master's name. But they're just walking through the city streets and they find this purple guy with a British accent and a beard, and he's got this eyeball on the center of his forehead, just above, like, the bridge of his nose. And I was trying to figure out what it was. And, like, years ago, it's like, well, it's purple. Like, but, like, it can't be a mind flare because mind flares have tentacles, but it does have the color scheme. And, but that was more of like a joke, the jokes are funny and I'm not, but it was just something that it was like an off the cuff, like, it may as well be this because very few other, like, iconic D&D creatures really act like they should in the role-playing game. But as it turns out that, yes, this is the unique take on the Mind Flare. So this is a Mind Flare, an illithid, a brain-eating creature that is just openly walking through the marketplace of a human city, and people aren't seemingly bothered by it. I don't know. But let's take a look at the character sheets here. Because, like I said, I don't want to go into all this stuff. That might be, again, the subject for a future video. But we do have some information, I guess, about the characters in the movie. So we'll read those. So character sheets. Who's who in the D&D movie? Thought you'd escape the spoilers. No, I thought I'd escape the movie, but obviously not. Well, you mostly have, but in the spirit of things, we've dropped in a few here. We'll try to warn you ahead of time before giving away the part about Darth Vader being Luke's. Yeah, that's timely for even 2000. So we got Courtney? Okay. Courtney or Corey Solomon, the director. Few directorial debuts take quite as long to finish as Corey Solomon's. The 30-year-old director of Dungeons & Dragons was only 21 when, after working all over Hollywood in various capacities, he ambitiously formed his own production company, Sweet Pea Entertainment. He showed what might delicately be called the cojones of an ox when he decided to walk into TSR in 1991, so a near decade before this issue came out. In 1991, to acquire the rights to the film. At first, he says he was laughed out of the office. He persevered, however, and by 1994, so 3 years later, he had the rights to the D&D movie franchise secured and the first draft of a script ready to go. As he continued to work on this picture. He got the backing of Hollywood action mogul Joel Silver, which no doubt helped sell the first-time director to investors. Solomon has closely guarded the details of his story, although he has hinted that this would be the first film of a planned trilogy. Oh my. At the time of this writing, though, he's no doubt happy to have found the distributor for his first movie, New Line Cinema, who will soon be bringing you Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings film. Solomon also has the comic rights to the book Gen 13. I have no idea what that is. So yeah, this was planned to be a trilogy. And New Line was running both the D&D movie and the Lord of the Rings movies. Take a guess as to which one they decided to continue with and which one they dumped like a bad habit. Now, to be fair, the second movie, The Wrath of the Dragon God, which was a made for like TV or like straight to DVD movie, I think it was done for like the Sci-Fi Channel or something. The movie itself isn't that bad. I actually really like the second one, and I wish that the second movie would have had the budget and a theatrical release of the first movie, because we may have had some better memories of going to the theaters to see a D&D movie. Now, I'm not going to comment on the one that's coming up because I just honestly have no interest in seeing it. I haven't enjoyed a new movie in the last like 4 or 5 years, so I'm kind of just done with theaters. But like the second one could have been a lot better if they had like the budget for it. But overall, it was decent, and it was much closer to real D&D than what this movie ended up being. So then we have Ridley, played by Justin Whalen, a swashbuckling rogue and the reluctant hero. An orphan with no magical ability. The big thing was that in the Empire of Ishmir, if you were a mage, you were nobility. If you were not a mage, you were considered to be second class. So that was the premise. It's mentioned, I think, in the opening narration. It supposedly plays a role in the story, but not really. It's one of those issues of like of telling, not showing. But anyway, so he has no magical ability. 2 strikes against you on the streets of Sumdal? I guess the Empire's name is Ishmir. Ridley's a thief who's been forced to get by on his wits his entire life. If he can't get by on his wits... Oh, sorry. It's hard for me to read this just based on the angle that I'm at and the small text, and this is quite far away from it. So my arm is fully extended, and I'm trying to read this. So he's forced to get by on his wits his entire life. If he can't get out of a situation with roguish charm, he'll show you he knows how to handle a sword. All right, maybe a little bit. He's scoping out part of this Sumdal School of Wizardry, in part because he has no love for the ruling mage class, and takes pleasure in causing them grief whenever he can. Ridley will be forced to put all of his considerable skills to the test in a mano-a-mano combat against Damodar. Okay, so that's a little bit of a spoiler thing there. And there might be more to this young man than is apparent to those who first meet him. Maybe they hint at that at the end of the movie, but it never plays a role in anything throughout. He's just like the main character, so he's the one that succeeds at everything. Justin Whalen, interviewed in Dragon issue 274. I don't think I have that one. I wish I did. Or was that the one? Maybe that was the one that I read. Is probably best known to Dragon readers as Jimmy Olsen from Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. His first big break was on TV's General Hospital, which soon led to roles on the Scott Baio vehicle Charles in Charge. He won an Emmy in 1994 for the CBS movie called Other Mothers, about a boy coming to grips with the fact that he has 2 moms, and this was like late 90s, early 2000s, so that stuff was considered to be much more persona non grata than it is today. So that was actually, even for back then, that was actually kind of a big, kind of a big deal that they made a movie about that. So cool stuff. Whalen has been with this picture longer than any other actor. He accepted the role of Ridley, which was practically written for him in 1997. In the ensuing 3 years, the young actor became good friends with director Corey Solomon and turned down several work offers to keep his availability open. Solomon has said that without Whalen, the picture would not have been made. I wonder how he feels about that in retrospect, like, hindsight being 2020. Oh, did I miss a... I did miss a page here. I'm not going to read all of these characters, but we'll focus on a couple of them here. So let's take a look at Snails, played by Marlon Wayans. So Snails has been a thief at least as long, if not longer, than his partner Ridley. Like his friend, Snails has endured a rough life as a second-class citizen of Izmir. So now it's Izmir, not the city. It's weird that they flip back and forth. Anyway, he boasts an uncanny survival instinct. Okay, good way of phrasing it, I guess. Knowing that ultimately his own life is his most valuable possession, a quality others might see as cowardice. Despite this, he has a courageous heart and stands with his comrades. When the fighting gets serious, he's also a whiz with the old lockpick. So I don't think we ever see him actually pick a lock in the movie. Because when they break into the wizard school, they climb in through a window. And I don't think there was anything else ever in the movie that involved him actually picking a lock. I think even when he finds Damodor's chambers, in that scene where he steps on the oatmeal carpet, I want to say that door was just wide open. I could be wrong. I haven't watched the movie in a few years. But yeah, to say that he has an uncanny survival instinct and that others might find it as cowardice, he just came across as really, really annoying and whiny in the movie. Marlon Wayans now has what many considered an unexpected hit under his belt since Scary... Okay. Oh man, Scary Movie actually predated the D&D movie? I guess. It's been so long. But yeah, so he was in Scary Movie. He was also in... he's the youngest of the Wayans siblings. Does it actually mention that he was on in Living Color? I'm pretty sure he was on in Living Color, wasn't he? Anyway, you can catch him in Requiem for a Dream, really? And on the TV show he shares with his brother Sean. Okay, so, yeah, wow. Oh boy, let's, okay, I'm going to read Profian, and I think that might be the last one for this video. We have Profian, Jeremy Irons. Now, if you haven't seen the D&D movie, Profian, Jeremy Irons' performance is the most well-remembered aspect of the movie, and for literally all of the wrong reasons. That Jeremy Irons took this for a paycheck, and he hammed it up like no other. It was kind of a work of art in how absolutely ridiculously over the top he was in literally every scene. You can tell that he absolutely did not care enough to actually take the role seriously. And it really comes across in the movie. But let's see what they say about Profian here. So odds are that so again, it goes back to the city name and not just the empire. I don't know why that's weird. So odds are that the Sumdal Dictionary has a picture of would-be conqueror Profian next to the word Machiavellian. So that, yeah, they knew that this was going to be bad, so they were trying to damage control. One of Sumdal's most powerful archmages, he's also a master manipulator, turning the Mage Council against the young queen and masterfully handling his agent, the ambitious Damodor. Masterfully, he casts a brain snake Geas type spell on him. It's not really manipulating, that's just literally forcing, and forcing somebody who was already loyal. I don't know. These articles raise a lot of questions, I find. All right, so Damodor, so head of the kingdom's secret police. Secret police? Everybody knows about. I guess maybe the KGB was supposed to be secret police and everyone know who they were too. All right, so we've got, for much of the film, Profian controls the action from the political arena, but he enters the fray during the climactic battle. While it's certainly possible that he thinks he's doing what's best for Izmir, make no mistake about his obsession for power. Profians certain that the entire kingdom would run much better with him in charge. Spoiler, not only does this guy kill a baby dragon after a botched Rod of Dragon Control experiment, he manages to have Savina's father assassinated and accuses her of treason. Savina, was that the guy at the mage school? Was that her? First of all, Savina, is that? I guess that's the name of the. I always forget the name of the female mage in the movie, but I didn't realize that was her father. Did they actually say that in the movie? I'm gonna have to watch this again. And spoiler, like, not only does he kill a baby dragon, like the stuff that they're spoiling is literally like the opening scenes of the movie. So, I guess few film actors are as respected as Jeremy Irons, and fewer still have had as varied and daring a career. He appeared in David Cronenberg's Twice on Dead Ring, or he appeared in David Cronenberg, like, again, in Cronenberg films, like they probably should have said, twice on Dead Ringers, in which he played twins, and M. Butterfly. He won a Tony for his Broadway debut in The Real Thing with Glenn Close, and an Oscar for Reversal of Fortune. He's also played in many memorable villains in recent years, such as an ice-cold terrorist Simon Gruber in Die Hard. Oh, I've only seen the first Die Hard movie. I forgot he was the brother of Hans Gruber. I think that was the third one, right? Die Hard with a Vengeance. And the regicidal scar in The Lion King. Irons currently spends much of his time supervising the renovation of his ancient Irish castle. Oh, he owns a castle. That's pretty cool. He will return to the screen in earnest after Dungeons and Dragons with a remake of Tennessee Williams' The Night of the Iguana and the thriller The Fourth Angel, both due in 2020 or 2001. I was going to say 2021. All right, yeah. So, no wait, Marina. That's not the name that they had before, was it? Oh, Empress Savina. Right. Okay. Right. That's the. He murdered. When did he murder Savina's? I get, maybe that's something that's alluded to. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, okay. This is a section I have to read. It's a D&D movie when there are several special little elements that director Corey Solomon, himself a longtime D&D gamer, put into the film. For RPG fans, here are but a few. Dave Arneson has a small cameo. Oh, that's cool. Dragon types are clearly delineated by color. Okay, they don't look like the Monster Manual depictions, but, I mean, yes, you've got red and gold dragons. It says red and gold and so on, but you only ever see red and gold. Every character represents an iconic D&D class. The rogues pick locks and fight with speed and dexterity. I don't think they ever actually do either of those things. Ridley just does sword fighting against a mage, and it just looks like normal sword fighting. The wizards hurl fireballs and magic missiles. Again, I don't think we see magic missile, but the magic missile also like knocks people down and stuns them for a short period of time. I don't recall. Oh yeah, fireballs. Okay, that's what the council members were throwing at the climactic battle. Okay, so the main characters never use fireball. The fighters swing their battle-scarred melee weapons, and rangers move through the forest like a fish through water. I mean, yeah, okay. There is a ranger character who literally, her only role in the movie is to tell everybody else that, hey, you guys got to sit this one out. It's all about Ridley. Weird stuff. Okay. Oh, the dwarf's name was Elwood. Okay, I didn't know that because they literally never use his name. Okay, so we got then the, wait, this is a D&D movie? By the same token, here are a few things that seem odd at first to players used to Greyhawk and the Forgotten Realms. Think of Izmir as its own world in the multiverse. Again, good spin job here. So elves are big, really big. Tom Baker, clan master of the elves in the movie, stands 6 feet 4 inches tall. I don't think you actually see him standing up though. Thieves favor a longsword, not a rapier. Mages run things. There's mageocracies in other campaign settings. There seems to be an alarming dearth of clerics. So, yeah, there's no clerics, I guess. And that's actually something that factors into the second movie, Wrath of the Dragon God, when, like, the whole thing revolves around a wizard trying to multi-class into cleric. The second movie, in my opinion, still is far better, but man, weird. Like again, you could tell that they were fully aware that this was not going to be what people were expecting, and they were doing their best to try to spin things in such a way, or to subtly prepare you for things that you were going to see in the movie. So yeah, it's stuff, I guess. 9 Dwarven Proverbs, so just expressions. Gold doesn't burn, spilled water flees fast. The law is older than your blade. Okay. You don't find gold by licking the rock. All right. Dwarves, Artificer, so these must be the gadgets. Artificer, Slayer. Oh, okay. So these are, okay. So these are actual, like, I guess, character builds? Suggestions for creating characters? So we got the Artificer, which is a fighter wizard, because one of the big things with 3rd edition was that dwarves could now actually be wizards. In 2nd edition AD&D, 1st edition AD&D, they were just prohibited from taking the magic user class at all. I think they could take a few levels of cleric, but it was one of those classes where they only progressed to like 7th or 8th level in. And then in D&D Basic, dwarf was its own class. So like they couldn't be a magic user because only humans could be magic users or thieves or clerics. Dwarves were basically fighters with a few other benefits. So yeah, I guess it makes sense that they would want to push the idea that you can actually make a dwarf wizard now. And I gotta say, like, I recently played a dwarf wizard character in a 5e game, and I actually really enjoyed that character. But I took the dwarf sub-race that gives you proficiency in, I want to say it's like certain dwarven weapons. And then I took the war mage, which gave you proficiency in armors. So my dwarf wizard actually presented himself as if he was a fighter, and then would sort of catch people off guard when he would actually throw like a spell at them. So really cool stuff. Like he would try to use, like there were some things that I wanted him to be a little bit more like subtle about, like almost using like charm magic in a very, inobvious way, so that, you would just think that he was very convincing. But yeah, it was a cool character. So we have the Dwarven Artificer here. So it is a dwarf warrior smith who uses his magic to enhance his own fighting ability and that of his companions. So let's just take a look at the advantages here. So the advantages over single class wizard. Okay, so they're comparing this to wizard, not fighter, obviously. More hit points on average. Yep, better base attack, sure. Better fortitude saves, definitely. Fighter, weapon, and armor proficiency. So obviously they start you as fighter at first level, right? Yeah, okay. They do. I'll give you a closer look at these charts here in a moment. Because if you multi-class, you don't gain, I don't think you gain the armor or weapon proficiencies if you multi-class into fighter from wizard. So they start you off as a fighter. Bonus fighter feats, weapon specialization access, and then the disadvantages is that you have slowed down access to spell levels, maximum of 5th level spells, and weaker will saves. So let's just take a look at what they got here. So they go from fighter 1. Now, fighter was a dwarf's favorite class, so they didn't have to maintain balance between like only one level difference between fighter and wizard. And you can see there's a couple of situations where they really stick to that. So the character is only a 1st level fighter, and then at 2nd level through all the way through 6th level, so 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th and 6th, the character just takes wizard level. So it's fighter 1 and then gets up to wizard 5. Then they start gaining some fighter levels again. So levels 7, 8, and 9, they gain fighter levels. And at level 10 as well. Then at level, 10, 11. And then finally at level 12, a 6th level wizard, so 6 and 6, then 7, 6, 7, 7, 8, 7. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. They eventually get up to being 10 levels in each class, which gets up to a 15 plus 15 bonus on attack rolls, which gives them 3 attacks. A wizard would only ever get up to plus 10, so that works out pretty well. And then abilities gained, so it gives you just sort of what they choose there. So yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of a cool choice. And the Slayer is a Dwarven fighter rogue. So the advantages, again, I think the classes are pretty similar. They keep the fighter and rogue levels a lot closer than they did with the wizard. But they still get up to a level 10 in each class. So the advantages over a single class rogue, obviously more hit points, better. That's the same things. Yeah, those are literally the same advantages. The disadvantages are fewer skill points, weaker reflex save, and less access to rogue class abilities, which is, makes sense. Oh, there's a few other ones here. So we have the Stoneling, which is a sect of dwarf cleric rogues. Okay. Temple Defender, which are cleric fighters? Yeah, fighter clerics. Those are actually kind of cool. Again, that might be worth looking into a little deeper. And then we have just some fiction, some literature set in the world of Greyhawk. So cool stuff there. Mind Flayers, which are, I guess, sort of like a lexicon kind of thing. Or, yeah, kind of like a lexicon. Dwarven Gizmos. All right, I want to take a look at a few of these. I'm just going to read what they are and what their names are. So you got Grasping Shield, Spike Shooter, okay, Climbing Aids, so we got a Rope Climber, Mobile Brace, Boot Pumps for Bellows, for Smithing, Headlamp, Bellows Masks. Okay, yeah, those are things that make sense. So stuff for Dwarven trade work and stuff like that, so not too bad. Volo's Lost Treasures of Coromir. So some Forgotten Realms related stuff. Then Versus Dwargar. I think there was a Versus in the last issue that I took a look at here as well. So tips versus Dwargar. So use spells such as See Invisibility or Invisibility Purge, because Dwargar, they do have an inherent ability to make themselves invisible. Take advantage of your superior movement rate. Summon monsters or animals with abilities such as Scent or Blind Sight to root out invisible foes before they surprise you. And use Daylight to hit Dwargar with heavy competence penalties on most combat rolls. So that's actually pretty good advice, because they had light sensitivity, so they would get, I think it was only a -1 or -2 on attack rolls and skill checks and saving throws and stuff like that, if they were in areas of bright light, like daylight or natural light. So yeah, kind of cool stuff there. I'm not going to get into the actual descriptions here because they're more or less the same things that were just given to you in the other points there. But then we got the Stone Lord. So this is a dwarf-specific prestige class, which does require that you are a dwarf. The requirements are a base attack bonus of 5 or better. So typically, you might want to be a 5th level fighter, and then when you gain 6th level, you could take this one. The classes like cleric, they do get an okay base attack progression. But I don't think this is particularly spell casting inspired. You have to have actually, no, maybe you do, because there's spellcraft 3 ranks, stoneworking 6 ranks. They have to have the endurance feat and know the Terran language. To become a Stone Lord, a dwarf must undergo an arduous ritual involving immersion in sacred loam, long fasting periods deep underground, and ingestion of 1,000 gold pieces worth of powdered gemstones. That can't be good for you. The gem type chosen is then the Stone Lord's totem gem. Oh, okay. And she must carry that type of stone with her at all times to access the spell-like abilities she gains as a Stone Lord. So again, you can tell they were pushing the fact that dwarves can use magic now. So they get Earth's Blood. So once per day, the Stone Lord can heal her own wounds using a clump of mud. So you can literally just rub some dirt in there and you'll be fine. This ability heals 1d8 plus class level hit points. This is a spell-like ability. Using this ability is a standard action. They also only gain d8s for hit dice, so if you were a fighter, you do get scaled back a little bit. But that's fine. And then you get Stone Power. So at every other level gained, the Stone Lord can choose one from the following list of stone powers. No power can be chosen more than once. So Earth Strength, once per day, the Stone Lord grants himself a boost to her strength as if affected by Bull Strength. Okay, so Earth, which lasts for an hour, it's a spell-like ability. Earth's Endurance, which would be a boost to the Constitution, infected by the Endurance spell. That's right, in 3.0, I think they had I think they may have only had Bull Strength. They may have had something like maybe Cat's Grace or Owl's Wisdom or something like that. But they didn't have, I don't think the player's handbook had a spell to boost all 6 of the attributes. In 3.5, instead of it just being called Endurance, it was called Bear's Endurance, so each one would have like an animal attached to it, similar to Bull Strength. So that's kind of neat. So they would gain basically that. Earth Grip. Once per day, the Stone Lord can cast Hold Monster on any target on the ground, using her class level as the effective caster level. Again, standard ability, or spell-like ability, standard action. Gravity. Once per day, the Stone Lord can cast Slow as a spell-like ability. Earth Magic. Once per day, a spell cast by a Stone Lord, assuming they can cast spells, is considered maximized. Okay, as if with the maximized feat, although the spell's level is unaffected, the spell's level cannot be greater than the class level of the Stone Lord. Okay, so let's just say you took this at, what, 4th level? You wouldn't be able to use it on a spell of higher than level 4? That's not bad. Especially like early on. So that's actually kind of cool to be able to maximize a spell. Earth Shadows. Once per day per class level, the Stone Lord can create a figment of a medium-sized earth elemental that appears in a flanking position on the other side of the Stone Lord's opponent for 1 round. This ability allows the Stone Lord to make flanking attacks, which is +2 to hit, and can sneak attack if they have that ability against the opponent during that round, and it is a free action. Then we have Earth Power. Once per day, all melee attacks made by a Stone Lord in a single round gain +2 to hit and a +2d6 damage bonus. That's actually pretty good. This is supernatural ability, and using it counts as a free action. Stone Skin. Once per day, the Stone Lord can grant themselves, basically the effect is if they cast Stone Skin on themselves, using his class level as the level of the caster. It's a spell-like ability, takes standard action. Stone Skin, I think, was actually pretty good in 3.0. It gave you a really good damage reduction, I think. I could be wrong. Maybe it's the 3.5 one that gives a really good damage reduction. And then you have Summon Earth Elemental. So once per day, the Stone Lord can summon a small Earth Elemental, as if using the Summon Monster 3, using their class level as a level of the caster, and it is a ability standard action. You also get Stone Shapes. This is outside of the Stone Power. So Stone Shape once per day. They can cast Stone Shape as if the spell. They can also do the Meld into Stone once per day per class level. Okay. So that just basically allows you to like sink into any type of stonework so that you can't be attacked. Stone Tell. Once per day, the Stone Lord can speak with stone as if cast Stone Tell. I don't recall that spell, actually. I don't think I've ever seen that one used. And then they get Earthquake at 9th level of the Prestige class. So once per day, the Stone Lord can invoke an Earthquake as if they cast the spell using their class level. And by class level, it means like class level in the Prestige class. So 9th or 10th for the spell purposes. So that's actually not a bad class overall. Some really cool stuff. I don't recall this being in any other, at least not D&D books that I own. But I wonder if this was in, any of the other ones. I'd have to actually check that out. So that's actually kind of cool. Then we've got City of Ravens. So Heroes of Ravens Bluff. So this just gives you a few NPCs. You have Jack Rivenwald. I wonder if this is... Oh, part of the RPGA's Living Greyhawk campaign. Okay. So he's a 4th level rogue and a 10th level sorcerer. Jeez. So we got him. We have Anders Arkson. 7th level Barbarian, 2nd level Rogue, Xandria, 12th level Evoker, Specialist Wizard, and then Tharzon, Male Dwarf, level 4 Rogue. And then we just have the forum. So question of the month. I'm not going to read this article in this video just because we're already closing on an hour. But the last one that we took a look at, like the question of the month, didn't pertain to the actual like things that were being described in the article. So I wonder if like the question is answered in the next issue. That might be something to sort of look back at. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but these are just like people's like stories of things that they've done, I guess. And then we got the painting information. So the basics, the paint, the brushes. I mean, this is pretty cool stuff. I'm horrible at painting. Sage advice. I'm not going to read what everything is, but this month the Sage examines clerics and monks in the D&D game, then moves on for a look at the ins and outs of combat. So some of the questions. So the player's handbook says ex-clerics lose all class features. Presumably clerics don't lose their armor and shield proficiencies. Well, no, they don't. Proficiencies or their weapon proficiencies, except those granted by domain powers, both of which are listed as class features. So this is, I mean, the person's not wrong. They are technically right, but I think what they really mean is like their domain spells and their spellcasting ability. So armor, shield, and weapon proficiencies, indeed class features for clerics and for any other class. Nonetheless, you're correct. Ex-clerics lose spells, domain powers, spontaneous casting, and power over the undead, and they retain, so that's common sense stuff, but I guess you need a clarification. Can true neutral clerics of a true neutral deity, such as Farlangan, cast any spells, any chaos, evil, good, or law spell? Does a true neutral cleric's choice of whether they turn or rebuke undead affect what spells they can cast? I don't think so. True neutral clerics can cast any spell of chaos, evil, good, or law, provided the spell in question is on the cleric's spell list. Cleric's choice of whether to turn or rebuke undead does not affect which spells they can prepare. It was a new edition, so there's a lot of stuff here about the monks, so we're just gonna zip right along there. But so the Sage Advice articles were pretty good at trying to clarify things. You see, like, Sage Advice still kind of like mentioned in posts on like Facebook and Twitter to this day. So it's something that has at least survived past the death of Dragon Magazine. I couldn't find any rules on partial charge. I would assume that it was just a charge at half speed of normal, but I don't know where I could find any information what exactly is a partial charge. Okay, that's actually a good question because I've never heard the term partial charge. A partial charge is a charge you take as a partial action. It works just like a regular charge, except you move only your speed, not up to twice your speed. Okay. I don't recall that ever being a thing in 3.0. But that's weird. That's good, but it's weird. Are bonus spells for high ability scores cumulative in the new edition of D&D? Okay, so I think if they thought that, if you look at the charts, because I think you could start getting bonus spells at like a 12, or 12 or 14, so you get like one first level spell, but then if you go up to 16, it still says one under first level. So I think they were wondering if you added those. So they're not cumulative, you just take what's on the chart going horizontally across. No, each line on table 2-1 gives you all bonus spells you get for a particular ability score, but if your score increases, you do increase the number of bonus spells based on the new attribute. That probably should have also been mentioned in there. Oh, here we go. The description of Ranger class says Rangers cannot use double-headed weapons when using their two-weapon fighting ability. What exactly is... Oh, that's just like the double-bladed sword, the Dwarven Urgosh, or the Orc double axe. I was hoping they would actually bring up the Ranger armor thing, because Rangers are proficient in medium armor, but lose all of their class features if they used it. And then we have magic from Icewind Dale. Okay, so these are some magic items. So you have Almion, the Frostfather. It's +2 longsword, bane against evil outsiders. The wielder is affected by an Endure Element's fire spell, as if cast by an 8th level wizard. That's pretty cool. Dead Man's Face helm, grant a +1 bonus to armor class, in addition a +4 resistance bonus to will saving throws. Faith Killer is a +2 battle axe bane versus lawful outsiders. If Faith Killer inflicts a critical hit, all divine magic effects on the target are subjected to the effects of Dispel Magic. That's actually pretty cool. I'm not going to read the next one. Black Swan Armor. Black Swan Armor is a suit of +2 half plate, but is treated as chainmail for all other purposes, including maximum dex bonus, armor check penalty, arcane spell failure, speed, and weight. Okay, it's kind of like Elven Chain. That's interesting. Dungeon Craft. When should I switch over to the new rules? Oh, okay. Still kind of handling the transfer from 2nd to 3rd at this point. Again, that might be something for a future article. Wow, he's got the little scratch there. It's like, wow, 3 gnolls dead, and all you got was a little scratch, but then you see he's got an axe embedded deep into his back. And then we got Phil and Dixie, RPG Maker. No advertisements this month for Twisted or the Insane Clown Posse. I'm sorry for those who were hoping for that. It was weird that it was in the last issue. But there we go. So that was my look at the dwarf-centric issue of Dragon Magazine, the last issue for the year 2000. Overall, there's some really cool stuff in this issue. I really want to get back to the article on the dwarven culture. Just from reading the birth and like childhood section, like that looks like it's going to be a really cool article. The D&D movie stuff, again, it's fun to see how they kind of knew that this was probably not going to go well. So they were trying to prepare you ahead of time. Like, hey, thieves use longswords because they do in the movie. They knew that there was a lot of like non-D&D stuff that was in this thing. So the director did always claim it was based off of a campaign that he actually ran, but I feel like it was definitely heavily house ruled. But yeah, some cool stuff in here. The paint article, I mean, anything that sort of gives you beginner's tips on painting miniatures is cool stuff. I didn't really focus on it too much there, but those are good articles to have as well. In fact, actually, in some of the chainmail products that would come out, like some of the chainmail books, like the rule books for the different sets for the tabletop miniature skirmish game, I think they even had some like painting guides. Maybe if it wasn't in the books, it may have been like in the box sets. But just some really cool stuff overall, and yeah, a really solid issue of Dragon Magazine. Some really cool stuff. If there's any articles in here that you'd want me to go into deeper focus on, let me know that in the comments below, and I'd be more than happy to do that. I definitely want to revisit the actual, like I said, the culture stuff, and I do plan on doing a video in the future going over all the Dragon issues that I have, or all the Dragon articles pertaining to the D&D movie, and just to see how they tried to present the movie in the magazine. So really cool stuff. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this look through the magazine, and I will see you all next time. Until then, take care.